and welcome to the Libertarian Affiliate Spotlight, a production of the Libertarian Party Affiliate Support Committee, Valerie Sarwak, Chair, and of course, the Libertarian National Committee, Whitney Bilyeu, Chair. As always, John Gabso joins us on the big board, and I'm your host, Pat Ford. Joining us tonight, the representative of the Garden State, the great state of New Jersey, Dan Krause. Dan, welcome to Affiliate Spotlight.
How are you doing, Pat? It's good to hear your voice and to see your face.
Absolutely. And thanks for joining us on a slightly later edition of the show. Well, let's start at the beginning. I am a proud son of New Jersey, and it warms my heart to talk about libertarian fortunes in arguably the most misunderstood yet greatest state in the nation. Tonight we're going to focus on a number of issues. We want to talk about affiliate development. We want to talk about fundraising, special events, the issues and challenges that mean the most to America's, if you will, the breadbasket of New York City, where both football teams and probably eventually everything else will actually live. Talk to us about New Jersey. Talk to us about the challenges. Talk to us about, if you will, the organization of the state party.
Well, first, I got to correct you on one thing. It's not both. It's 3 football teams because we also have the Red Bulls that play over in Newark as well. So
Okay.
Just make sure we got that Jersey pride because we have all the New York teams over here.
Because New Jersey is only slightly less statist than New York.
Only slightly. I mean, we do our best to follow lockstep into whatever the other governor does. But, it's New Jersey. We do what we can.
There you go. And by the way, just for the record, I was born near that giant Exxon sign on Route 109. And when they talk about the skies are on fire, yes, there's that misunderstood portion of Elizabeth, New Jersey, that yes, the skies are still on fire.
Well, we got to have some place where we can actually refine the oil to become gasoline in New Jersey.
There you go. So talk to us about the history of the affiliate. And of course, your involvement. You've been a key component of the party there for a number of years. How did you get involved in the libertarian movement? And as we always like to ask on the show, what was your libertarian moment?
All right. So my libertarian moment, I'll start back, was in college. And I know I don't look it, but I went to college back in the early thousands. I was actually in a history class of history of American political systems, one of those names that you get in college. And I was talking to the professor because I wasn't quite sure where I was because I didn't agree with any of the 2 parties. And I asked him, hey, what are you? He said, oh, I'm a socialist. Okay, great. Well, what do you think I am? And I gave him my positions. He said, you're probably libertarian. And that was way back in 2001. And unlike most people that go with like Rothbard or one of the other thinkers, my first reading was back issues of the Freedman from PDF back issues of the Freedman that I could find trolling around the internet. I mean, way back in the day. Right. That was my libertarian moment. Didn't actually.
I got to ask you: was there on AOL a libertarian keyword for libertarian?
Oh God, I don't even know, man. I kind of skipped over the AOL phase of my life. I was doing bulletin boards and then automatically over to Google as soon as I hit college. It was craziness. But after that, I didn't really get involved with the party. I got the national membership. I tried to get started with the Delaware party because I was Delaware born and bred and went to school there. And I stayed registered Republican to my shame because I tried to get some traction with the local party, but I couldn't because, it's famously difficult to get traction when you're just getting into it. It's hard to find people, at least back in that day. Delaware LP is doing a fantastic job these days.
Right.
And about 2016, I was exhausted 2015. I was exhausted in Jersey City working in the arts as a set designer and theater maker. And I was visiting some friends, and they said, "Why don't you come down to the diner? We're having the state party meeting. Great, show up. I have a grand old time, enjoy myself." And they asked for, "Hey, we're looking for someone to be a delegate. Would you want to be a delegate to the national committee?" So I said, "Sure, but I'm not a member." But I am now, and I became a member that day, and then got elected to be a delegate later on. But before that, I was sort of trolling around the party for a long time, active with the Liberty Caucus for the GOP back in my idiotic days.
Right.
And then I was active with the Campaign for Liberty back when that was a thing. And I don't even know if it still is, but it was a valiant, noble effort, and it didn't go anywhere really. But I'm glad to say that I'm with the party now, and I have been for a number of years, and it's been one of my pleasures in my entire life and one of my honors in my entire life to help this party grow and become what it truly deserves to be.
As I've done on a number of occasions, I will share at this moment, and I apologize to the frequent listeners. You may be embarrassed by your political past, but I may be one of the few people that know that I was a volunteer for Richard Nixon in 1972 as a proud member of CREEP, the Committee for the Reelection of the President. In 1972, there was a Nixon headquarters in Kenilworth, New Jersey, where I did photocopies and learned all about how to break campaign finance laws. It was an early introduction, an important one.
We all gotta know how to do it wrong before we can do it right, Pat. I don't think you have anything to be embarrassed for. You corrected yourself, and you've done good work since.
There you go. So, New Jersey, for many people in their imagination, exists in a couple of different ways. Of course, Atlantic City is world famous, not only just as a entertainment and gambling mecca, but as the true funeral pyre of, if you will, of Donald Trump edition 1.
Yeah, it takes a certain somebody to make a gambling casino go bankrupt.
And multiple, it takes
a certain special kind of idiot to make that happen. It's, you have a state enforced monopoly and a literal license to print money, and all the odds working in your favor, and you go bankrupt. Well done, Donald. Well done.
But of course, that was 8D chess, because he was intentionally losing money in order to gain tax advantages for his other successful investments, which at that point in time, and you and I just were sort of surrounded by this, I think it was an airline, a steak company, the New Jersey Generals, since we're talking about ill-fated football teams, and all of that. So, but to a large degree, New Jersey has always been somewhat in the shadow of Manhattan. Yeah. I lived in New Jersey. I worked in Manhattan for a number of years. And what's fascinating for a lot of people is that you can have people working in Manhattan who literally can be as far away as Pennsylvania, southern New Jersey, and eastern Connecticut. So, but give us a sense of what's right about New Jersey. It was it is still a significant player in the pharmaceuticals industry. A great deal of the back office operations of the biggest American financial services companies are in New Jersey. Give us a little flavor of the issues, the economies, of what's happening in the Garden State.
Well, the issues and economies are varied. The state is a tiny one geographically, but the divide between north, south, and central does exist. Central, I know a lot of people hate me for that, really dictates what's happening. For example, you'll get far more farmland down into central and down into southern than you are going to have up in the north. In the north, you actually have a beautiful resort industry, a lot of small little towns, a lot of lake district kind of thing where you can go in, have a fantastic time. Come on out to New Jersey, enjoy yourself, rent a cabin, go swim in a lake. You'll have a fantastic time. You have also some of the best theater in the world, in my opinion. George Street Playhouse, the State Theater, Paper Mill Playhouse. These are just a few. I would be remiss to not mention New Jersey Rep down in Long Branch if you want to go to the shore and see a show at the same time. Fantastic theater, fantastic arts in general. The sculpture gardens is something to see, to be believed. I can really go on and on about the arts and the entertainment because that's where I spent my entire career. We are actually the original place of film production until it got taken over by Hollywood because of reasons. Of some other things that are currently interesting in New Jersey is that we're finally late to the party, but finally getting legalized weed. We're doing it really backwards. We're trying to do the California model, but we're finally getting it. We have, unfortunately, some development issues when it comes to land building and prices. All of our housing prices are going up, and what's not helping that, especially our cost of living, is some of the highest, if not the highest. It depends on the day. land taxes in the nation. In fact, very few people that are, while we are one of the leading states, if not the leading states for education, between Princeton, Rutgers, any number of others, NJIT. While we are one of the leading states for education, and really excellent education, a lot of the students that study here can't afford to live here because of the taxes and the cost of living. And we're also finding that a lot of people that have lived here their entire lives can't afford to remain here in homes that their grandparents built or their parents built or they themselves built, because you're seeing some of the highest taxes and cost of living in the nation. One thing that doesn't get nearly enough play is the issues of the Port Authority and the tolls in general. While we have fantastic toll roads, they're beautiful, they're fantastic, they're clogged for every single day with traffic, but they're wonderful to look at, they're smooth. But 50% of the tolls paid in the United States are paid in the Hudson Valley between New York and New Jersey. Half of the tolls in the United States, all 50 states and territories, are paid for in the Hudson Valley, New York and New Jersey. And I just saw Steve Sassone for Liberty showing up, Stevens Institute for Technology. I apologize, Stevens. Stevens, you're wonderful. You do fantastic work. So if we're gonna talk about cost of living, we have to talk about the tolls, because just going from where I lived to Secaucus every day for a number of years, I was spending $5,000-$6,000 a year in tolls, which is significant. And that's not even going across the tunnels, because tunnels are $15 and up, depending on how you're paying for it. I mean, we have significant problems, most of them coming from Trenton because of the way that we manage our spending, but none of them is insurmountable. If we're able to get our spending under control, then we can, and if we're able to get some sort of taxation under control, even a little bit of reform, a little bit of progress, the quality of life in New Jersey explodes, because even under this heavy cost of living burden, it's still a fantastic and wonderful place to live and work. And its attributes to that is the fact that so many millions live here, and it is the densest populated state in the nation. And that is the number one. We are the densest populated state in the nation, even with Manhattan next door.
Talk about the politics, if you will.
Oh, it's machines is what it is. Machines within machines. If it's not the North Jersey machine, it's the South Jersey machine. If it's not the Hudson County machine, it's the Trenton machine. It's nothing. Very little gets done inside the two parties. If it doesn't have some sort of machine power over it, especially South Jersey. South Jersey is especially well controlled. And it says something that Northern New Jersey, especially Hudson County and Bergen County, was actually used by international colleges to study political corruption for a number of years. I don't know if that's still the case, but schools in Europe were using our counties to study how political corruption works, because of the ins and outs and the pay for play and all that stuff. I've forgotten the question now. It got me going on that. I apologize.
No, because we want to understand really the if you will, the framework that you have to operate in as a libertarian.
Oh,
and
okay.
Because you've got a state that was for so many years, you talk about a cult of personality. Chris Christie was, it wasn't, and to a large degree, the everyman of New Jersey.
Oh, yeah, he was totally the everyman. Everybody loved him. He was absolutely the everyman that was totally backed by corporate powers. And everyone. I actually did get to shake his hand one day, which is an interesting moment.
I can only imagine. But it's interesting, because people would ask me, particularly after watching The Sopranos and the James Gandolfini character, and then seeing Chris Christie at work, they would think that there was a caricature, but I would try to explain to them, as someone who emanates from central New Jersey, that he is representative of every small-time shyster lawyer / political operator / Republican / Democrat in New Jersey. There are tens of thousands of Chris Christies, aren't there?
It's not far from the truth. It really isn't. And this is not to say that all the caricatures you're going to see in a mob piece or mob-based piece, because I am a proud Italian American, are appropriate or accurate. The Italian experience is very wide and very ranging.
Mhm.
But that idea of the connected man that has powers in fingers in all the pots and powers and is able to do the favor and have give you the turn at the wheel if you just do it this way and you just walk along is absolutely true. There's a reason that, for example, current governor's race, we have a fantastic gubernatorial candidate team in the body of Greg Mealy for governor and Evelyn Brownstein for lieutenant governor. And they're fantastic. Mealy for governor. Let me make sure I got that right, correct? Yeah, it is. Mealy for governor. Please go check them out. They're fantastic people. But they were elected in a landslide at our convention in March, and one of the most open and also one of the most televised campaigns we've had in the state, because we wanted to make sure that we had some debates, we had some open input, we had as many candidates as we possibly could that were honestly going for the spot. Compare that to the Republicans that had a three-way knockdown, drag out fight, and the guy that won is the darling of the Trenton elite that has connections going back for decades and is effectively an empty suit for the status quo in Trenton, which is to say, spend everything, figure out how to pay for it later, and don't actually care about the lives of the people that you're governing. And we have the ruling favorite, because everybody loves a dictator in New Jersey, in the body of Mr. Murphy,
Right.
who has absolutely, I have yet to see original idea coming out of his office, because he seems, at least in the past year, maybe even 3 years, because he seems to simply follow the lead of whatever happens in California with this idiotic idea to eliminate the ability for freelancers to operate in New Jersey. And all the COVID nonsense that he followed along almost pitch perfect from Governor Cuomo, including putting people into nursing homes that were testing positive for COVID infection. Let's just put them in. Let's just force the nursing homes to take them back, and suddenly we see a spike in nursing home deaths. Gosh, I wonder why that happened, Mr. Murphy.
Right. And the ultimate tragic comedy is that when you use the term Trenton elite, anyone who's ever been to Trenton or Camden sees, if you will, front page, the failure of big government, because they are amongst the poorest cities in the nation. I mean, Camden is, which is, if you've ever been on your way to, say, visit Mr. Sheets and his hearty crew in Pennsylvania, you're going
God
to
bless
go
Mr. Sheets.
You're going to go through what is uproariously known as the New Jersey Transportation Center in scenic Trenton and in Camden and in right on the border, whatever. And again, take Amtrak through there and just stay awake and watch the scenery roll by, and you'll see the wasted potential of what should be arguably one of the wealthiest states in the nation.
It's Camden holds a special place of sadness in my heart. There's so many good people in Camden that are doing everything they possibly could to make a life for themselves, but they're mired down by there's a long history, and it would be unfair of me to say how Camden is doing now. But in my own lifetime, we've seen corrupt tax reform after corrupt politician after bad false start after let's vote them all out and vote new people in, and guess what, say hello to the new boss just like the old boss activity. It breaks your heart, and I always want better for Camden, and I really hope that the people in Camden get the government that they deserve in their town council, because they haven't yet, and I really hope that changes soon. It's not too long ago, and I don't know if this is still the case, but within the last decade, there's a joke online that bad things happen in Philadelphia. They do, but really they're talking about Camden across the river. The United States Army medics would have in the past been sent to Temple University Hospital to train because of all the GSWs coming out of Camden at the time.
Wow.
I really hope that has changed, and I know the people on the ground are doing their absolute best, and I hope that they get the government that they deserve in their town councils soon. They deserve better.
Right. Well, there's a story before we break into some of the finer detail of the operations of the New Jersey Libertarian Party. There's a story, though, that I think really sums up the self-absorption, the futility, the arrogance, the incompetence of the government of the state of New Jersey, and that, of course, is Bridgegate. Maybe you can give folks a 1-minute primer on Bridgegate, because I don't know if the word epitome comes to mind, the word caricature comes to mind, yet it's real. What happened in what's called Bridgegate?
Well, I'll give you a little background on Bridgegate. So, how do I even start this? First off, no one that actually did anything wrong went to jail. I'll tell you that much.
They never do.
Basically, the broad strokes of it is, and I don't want to get anything wrong, but the broad strokes of it is this. A traffic study was ordered in Fort Lee, New Jersey, which is where the George Washington Bridge, the most heavily traveled bridge in the nation, if not the world. It is 2 layers of 6-lane highway going into and out of northern Manhattan. It is big. It's all the truck traffic that wants to go into England, that doesn't want to go further upstate, goes through this bridge. If you're not across by 6:30 a.m., you're stuck in 2 hours traffic. It is a major crossing
on a good day.
On a good day. And Fort Lee mayor at the time didn't really want to get along with Chris Christie with his reelection. And at least that's the accusation. And suddenly a traffic study was ordered, because the bridge is controlled by the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. And it is alleged that controls of that traffic study was handled by someone that had connection to the Christie administration. And suddenly most of the on-ramp, or several key on-ramps to the bridge crossing on the Fort Lee side, were closed, causing a traffic snarl that lasted right about 18 hours and shut down traffic in the surrounding area. Bergen and Hudson County were done. Going westward down the approach was done. It was hospital access for ambulance emergencies was done. Fires, emergency vehicles were unable to move around. It's not just a bad traffic jam. It was a level of congestion caused by a traffic study that happened to coincide with a mayor who did not go along with endorsing Chris Christie just a little while before. It was an implication that has yet to be proven, and so I'm not going to cast aspersion, especially when they have not had the test of a jury.
But it was an obsessive governor. An obnoxious, self-absorbed, narcissistic ass of a governor who decided that, and I'll say, because
yeah, you go right ahead. You say what you want.
They don't have court service up here, I don't think. But a governor whose ego had grown beyond all proportion. It was enabled by the system of weights, measures, and favors. Right. that is just legion in the state of New Jersey. We are operated not by a state government. We're operated mostly, some feel, by authorities. If it's not the Port Authority, it's the Turnpike Authority or the Parkway Authority or the insert this here authority. It's going to be, now with the marijuana thing, it's going to be an entirely different board. We got the Meadowlands and Gaming Commission going on and controlling the waterways up there. We have all sorts of authorities that seem to be designed to allow people to give political favors without having the people that are in control of these state resources being exposed to the needs of the voters. And suddenly all this money gets flown through and just dispersed in ways that aren't actually rational and not actually done. For example, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, this is holds a special place in my heart. It was enacted after World War I in order to increase transportation access and traffic flow in the New York Bay. Since then, it has done none of that. It has not done anywhere close to what its actual raison d'etre it is supposed to be. If it were, since it's operating at technically a profit,
It should be able to open new crossings of the Hudson, or open new portways, or dredge canals to actually make them better access. But what they do is find ways to being completely opaque to voter access and information, completely disguise how the money is flowing around. And guess what? The money's supposed to be spent inside the Port Authority control zone, and now the money's being funneled out to other state level projects because we've so badly handled our budgets in New Jersey. By the way, $2 million plus per roadway mile in New Jersey, the most expensive roadways in the country. $2 million plus. Last I was able to see a study on it per mile. We've so poorly handled how we spend our money and allocate our resources for our roads, which libertarians, we got to talk about roads.
Right.
That the money from the Port Authority is now being funneled out, or at least it was, to projects that were underfunded, such as the Pulaski Skyway. That, thank God, they were actually able to do some work on it, but it was. If you need to break the original covenant between states in order to get money to where it needs to go, maybe your underlying funding structure for your roads is broken and needs to be fixed. How about that?
And why this is so important to the show, and why I moved in this direction. And by the way, the World Trade Center, the original World Trade Center, was in fact a Port Authority project.
Still is.
And during the first attack, I was in Midtown. A significant percentage of the offices in that building were Port Authority, originally Port Authority and state level offices, despite its reputation as being the quote unquote World Trade Center. But why this is so important is because in this context, New Jersey is really the ultimate nightmare vision come to life of any libertarian.
It is a corporatist state, to put a very specific a political designation on it. It is a state government which has decided that it is in love with the ability to do things and spend money, but likes to disguise how it goes about that, and allows non-state corporations, not in the sense that people are thinking of in Wall Street, although that has its own part in place and special component, but by creating all these authorities, oh yeah, things can get done. When you're dealing with public resources that our own blood and time and food off our table has gone into to pay for, you're giving that money to unelected people that are unaccountable and are opaque in their dealings and have been proven to be almost exclusively a favor trade system. Right. Guess what? This is what a lot of people think is a good idea and are trying to copy elsewhere in the country. If people are start talking about we need an authority to get things done because it's too politically difficult to get done, hold on to your hats, because some amazing backdoor dealings are about to happen in your neck of the woods. Trust me, I'm in New Jersey.
And it represents, if you will, why it is such a challenge to elect libertarians. All right.
Well, we have our own special reasons for that. I can go into a few of our special access things if you like.
We will in a moment. But in terms of patronage, just raw, unfettered patronage, again, as you're pointing out, the connection between personal wealth and an opaque quasi-governmental state that exists just achingly beyond the fingertips of the individual voters, just slow out of reach and so in person, as to be really unlike any other state in the nation. And I'm very well traveled. I understand we all hate our governments. We all have tell legions of stories, but again, New Jersey is it's proof of concept of the failed corporate estate, and that's probably the best way we could put it. Now,
it really is.
To your point, then, what barriers have they erected in terms of preventing legitimate grassroots efforts to reform the state?
Well, believe it or not, we have some of the easiest ballot access in the country. In order to get on the ballot for a local political office, or even a state assembly or state senate run, or a congressional run, it is, well, I gotta review the facts on the congressional run, but it is roughly 100 signatures that you need collected of registered voters in New Jersey. And that's it to get on the ballot. However, you can only ever run as an independent because there are only two official political parties in the state of New Jersey, the Republicans and the Democrats. In order to become an actual official political party, not that you'd want to be recognized by the state in the first place, in order to do that, 10% of the votes cast in the most recent assembly race, and we do off-year races, so on the odd years, 10% of the total votes cast must have been cast for one of your candidates. So if 100,000 votes have been cast, let's just, as an easy number, that means 10,000 votes have to go to Libertarian candidates. So since that has been put in place back in decades ago, zero new parties have achieved official party status. Mm-hmm. And some years, the two official parties haven't measured up and just stayed on no matter what. And we are, and thankfully, big shout out to the county clerks, because they have been so good to us these past few years. They have the county clerks that control where we are in the ballot have been willing to put all of our candidates in a single column for us. Thank you very much, county clerks. We love what you do. Please keep doing the honorable work that you do for us. But they don't have to. They're not required to. They could put us willy-nilly wherever they like. So that inability to have party status prevents us from getting primary access and general appeal. We are required to fund our own access and selection of candidates. We are not permitted to have, although this is changing, our ability to go along with all the benefits of being an official party is not there. But then again, with such easy ballot access, why try? So it's this kind of weird dynamic of you can't be of an official political party, but you can have easy ballot access. It's a strange situation.
But and similar rules exist in Rhode Island, where I happen to live, and I'm the former chair of the party. And by the way, a big congratulations!
Excellent work, by the way. I followed your career with interest, Mr. Ford.
You're too kind, but it's the challenge here, of course, is that we can become a political party. We have a 5%, if you will, mark to meet. It can only be done in the governor's race and the presidential race. We can name, however, any independent candidate who's running as a libertarian. Now, that sounds great, but here's the issue when it comes to party building. In Rhode Island, you can't register as a libertarian, and as a result, it's very difficult to pinpoint who a libertarian is. We meet libertarians all the time. We have a very high public profile in our little state, but people who still, it's constantly going out into the field blindly to try and recruit members. And social media helps, but you don't have that voter list.
You just brought up the registration a few years ago, thanks to the hard work of activists on the ground, LP and others, and there was. I wish I could remember their specific name, but they were not LP, but they were intrinsic on getting. And I'm sure I'll please put something in once I get their name back in my brain. They were able to sue the state and get permission for the people in New Jersey to register as libertarian, as socialist workers, as Green Party, as insert minor party here. And since that has happened, the New Jersey Libertarian Party has seen constant and consistent growth. In fact, now it's always had a little bit of a trend of we're going to go up and then down after the president, and then up and then down after the presidential because of attention. But this year we've seen consistent growth. We're now the largest registered minor party in the state. We don't see any abatement. We're continuing on that trend, and our membership has grown faster than any other year. I can only imagine it has something to do with the Democrats and Republicans imploding on themselves and making a complete farce of the COVID response, doing seemingly everything possible they could do to do it wrong, and work against human nature to find ways to make an absolute hash of it. But our membership has been growing. Our registered voters have been growing. Unfortunately, there was a law passed by Trenton this past year that is designed to protect police officers from having their information released publicly, which
Mhm.
is understandable. People might have a certain grudge against certain police officers, and I can understand why peace officers will want to have some kind of protection from having their private information out there on the internet for all to see. However, pardon me, the state has decided to interpret this law as them not being permitted to release the voter lists as they would normally. And we have to go with the OPRA request, Open Public Records Act.
Right.
Specific OPRA requests worded in specific ways for specific jurisdictions. In the past, we'd be able to just say, hey, State Department of Elections, give us the voter list. Great, thank you very much. I got the disk and I'm able to do the data mining. Now we have to specifically ask for OPRA information on specific districts and counties. And we have to go through that rigmarole and the process of actually justifying the request, because it's now protected information, because police officer information might be in there.
Oh.
Again, I totally understand the desire to keep peace officer information as protected as you reasonably can, but the unintended consequence, and there's something that us libertarians are very familiar with, the unintended consequence of such a good intention is that it becomes incredibly difficult for third parties and minor parties to do the data mining we need to do to get the information and the voter information so we can actually find the people that want to vote for our candidates and find the people that want to become members so we can grow the party and make our state what our people deserve. And that's our overriding goal, is to get people elected so that the state of New Jersey can be the state that the people of New Jersey deserve.
Right.
Without the rain tax.
Well, and here
we have a rain tax. I forgot to mention that.
No, we'll get into that in a second. And here, of course, is hypocrisy at a new level. Right now, as a nation, we have been engulfed in racial politics as it applies to voting.
Yes.
And the he said, she said, he said, she said that's going on with various voter, and we'll use the affiliates show air quotes, reforms of voting access. And both parties are actually in there. I'm not sure you're aware of this. This actually was accorded in Olympic sport this year. Virtue signaling now is there's a number of teams that have representing in Tokyo, and not the least of which, of course, is the Democratic Party, who will turn somehow, unembarrassedly, a eye towards folks in the BIPOC community. They will turn to them and say, we are here to protect your voter rights. While at the same time, in states like New Jersey, like states like New York, states around the nation, joined by their GOP brethren and sisterin, if that's a word, in doing everything they can to attack in whatever way possible the rights of minor voter parties to gain recognition with the electorate, and therefore, sadly, that element of legitimacy that is conveyed by that in today's culture. And to which I would say we hearken back to Mother Russia's Soviet workers' paradise, where, yes, the government worked overtime to make sure that everyone could vote. They just had absolutely no choices. So I say to them, it's racist, misogynistic. I'll throw all the terms out there, whether they apply or not, right? Behavior of them in whatever public format we can. And we should all do this. We should routinely call out both major parties for engaging in voter suppression, because that's what they're doing. It's racist. It's every descriptor you want to use. They need to be reminded. They need to be embarrassed in whatever public format they have, because it's absolute balderdash what they're doing right now. It's just absolute nonsense.
Well, you want to know who does a fantastic job, or is doing a fantastic job of cutting through that suppression of the message, is honestly, I got to say it again, Greg Millet and Evelyn Brownstein. Mm-hmm. At this point, they're actually getting traction in the media. People are talking about the 3 candidates for governor, and they're talking about Shitterelli, Murphy, whatever the hell his name is, the guy with the teeth, and Greg Millet for governor, who is on his second round of a 21 county tour. He's already visited every county in the state. He's had his platform up for a long time. He's gaining interest. He's getting interviews on the local radio and getting articles in our local media. He's actually cutting through because he's not afraid to talk to people that the other people are afraid to talk to. Last year, when I was first elected as chair in 2020, and I was driving back from the convention on the way home and listening to the radio, and as I'm driving home, the state gets shut down by Murphy. Like, just, we're done, closing down, everything, everybody go home, we're closed down. During that first little bit of time, it was so long ago, right? It seems like a year, like decades ago, but it was only last year. The first problem was that our governor said on national television, the Bill of Rights is above my pay grade. Governor Murphy, the Bill of Rights is above no elected official's pay grade. Trust us on this, because we fought you on that. We teamed up with people we weren't exactly thrilled to team up with because of ideological differences, but what we held together with them was the fact that we believe that the right to protest, the right to assemble, the right to have grievances addressed, which is the First Amendment, is never in question, even in the case of quarantine, which the state does have a historic right to do, unfortunately, especially the way our governor has done it. However, we were able to, partnering with some other activist groups, make the point, get onto the State House lawn, make the point, get our voices heard, show that we're going to peacefully assemble and protest, and that these are our rights because we are human beings, let alone Americans, but human beings have the right to protest a governor that has done wrong and is ignoring our rights, and is actively sending summonses and police to people's front doors because they are organizing protests that happened, until they finally acquiesced and said, "Okay, we didn't mean it really. We're only gonna send summons, and we're not gonna actually book you for organizing political events. We'll have your protest. It's okay. By the way, we're now gonna march in protest because now there's something that we agree with protesting." And by the way, the Libertarian Party in New Jersey was out there protesting with BLM, not because we agree with the organization. The organization hasn't done jack or squat for people of color in this country. The people that need police reform is the entire United States population. And I would be remiss to not mention Salvation and Social Justice for the fantastic work that they do in the state of New Jersey. We don't agree ideologically. Don't think that we are on board ideologically, but they have done fantastic work, especially for juvenile incarceration, especially police reform, especially getting actual justice to happen. It says that something that our state has decided to so ignore the civil rights of the people of the state when it comes to basic things like justice, people being held on psychiatric holds after serving their time, being held, like there's one gentleman whose name I've forgotten. He served 8 years and then was held for 11 years on psychiatric hold when there was absolutely no reason to hold him on psychiatric. It was just they didn't want to let him go. And that happens. And we still, all these Democratic counties up north that are banging on the drum that we hate ICE, we hate ICE. Well, guess what? They're still getting ICE contracts to hold unconvicted immigrants that are accused of violating visas or accused of violating immigration law, being held in county prison. They're still taking those ICE contracts.
Yep.
Well done. Way to wear your hypocrisy on your face and keep human dignity under your boot as well. Let's give people some actual justice. Let's give immigration reform that our people deserve so they can actually become United States citizens if they want and escape the cycle of poverty and violence of the countries they're coming from. How about that? But no, we don't want to do that. Actual justice. That'd be wrong.
I mean, these cycles of poverty and violence that we've helped inflict on their nations by
with our bombs and our
drug policy. Yeah. What's the old line? I've seen the enemy and he is us. No, you're absolutely right. It's
almost like we fund every single bad actor in the Southern Hemisphere, but with our backwards drug policies and our ability to put CIA actors and with teams and insert problem here, going back from before even you were born or before the party was actually created back in the 70s.
Right.
The problems are legion, and we see the hypocrisy of it in New Jersey because of how well they disguise it from the population. We've been under it's been theoretically it's ended now. Theoretically, it was executive order after executive order after executive order that the Republicans went along with, even while railing against it. We don't want this. We don't want this. And then they didn't do a darn thing in the state senate or the assembly to fight against it.
Right.
When Murphy would let the executive order lapse and then do another one.
Right. No, it's listen, I had the opportunity to question Senator Jack Reed from Rhode Island, who's the chair of the Senate Armed Services Committee, about the incredible propensity of the American government to train some of our best assassins. This was after the information was released that two of the Haitian assassins had gone to some of the best postdoctoral murder death squads in the nation. Yeah, it's in taking out the democratically elected president of Haiti.
Yeah, you and I could probably talk how awful things are in the Northeast and how they hide what really is going on from the voters all day. But I would like to talk just a little bit about how we've been able to build our affiliates in New Jersey, because it is an exciting thing. Back in a few years ago, I believe one of the key leaders on this was Jim Tassone, who you saw poke up in the comments there. The state of New Jersey was having difficulty organizing on the local level, so it was decided to divide into regions. There's Jim right there. It was decided to divide it into regions, north, central, and south, and to assign counties to these regions, so that when it came to our conventions, people that were running for assembly that technically were going across county lines, they could easily get our candidates approved, organized on a regional level, and then anyone that went across the regional line could be voted upon by the general state membership. That was a bylaws change. It was a fantastic job. And a few years later, a couple of people, myself included, decided to use this underlying structure and to take it to its logical extent of using it to organize on the local level. South Jersey's been fantastic with this. Central Jersey has been fantastic with this. Big shout out to Tim down in South Jersey and Karen in Central New Jersey. Let me actually get their names because I'm awful with names. I apologize. Tim O'Brien in South Jersey and Karen Fitzpatrick in Central. Fantastic work, both of you guys. And a special shout out to Northern New Jersey because they had to do a bit of a reset recently. I don't know if you saw the news, but I won't bring it up now. Francine Abel who is the now new Northern chair, doing off to the running after a recent election in March, and just doing gangbusters in the most populated region for libertarians in the state. Doing fantastic work up there, and thank you so much anybody of our regional affiliates that's doing the work. And what's been useful for there is that inside the regions, the counties are organizing. So we've gone from 0 counties organized to 9 counties organized at this point over the course of 2 years during a time of plague, of COVID shutdown and all the rest. And it's difficult. It's gardening in its most arduous and hard organizing work possible. But by getting these counties organized and by stepping up and being a county organizer, you're giving people access to the most visceral local political work that you can do, which is where most of the laws that actually affect us every day are. Right. You don't like the date that they're dealing with how they're dealing with the trash or recycling. Well, guess what? That's a city council thing. If you don't like the fact that they're actually going to put a rain tax in place, which we have in the state of New Jersey, that's also a town council thing. That happens at the local level. So there's so much of what happens and the spending and the organizing and the political decisions happen at the local level, especially with our 500 plus townships in New Jersey. Organizing at the local level like we've been able to do is critical. And if anyone that's watching tonight is not sure what they can do, grab 3 friends, go to a diner, or go to your local state equivalent where you can gather and just talk, maybe grab a beer or whatever, some hashish over in the corner, depending on how the legal stability of your state, and talk about what you can do to make your local town better. And really, like see if you can get something approved or pushed, or some ordinance removed or ordinance added, depending on what's going on. Don't defund the library. Don't do
Right.
that.
Right.
But find something truly wasteful and unjust and fix it. Show what good governance on the local level can do, and the voters in your town will elect you. And then you have power to make your local town better. And then when you run for your county level office or your state house, you have credibility because you've sat there and you've done the work. You've negotiated budgets. You found ways to make money go where it needs to get children educated, to get people that need care. You've done the work, and you've done it well. And overwhelmingly, when we have local libertarians elected, like Kara Schultz is one fantastic example, or the people over in Pennsylvania that we had so many elected in this past cycle. Well done, Steve and his team. When you do that and you show what we can do on the local level, that problem you were discussing of locking the third party people out of the debate and out of the conversation goes away. Because guess what? Now you're elected and you have power and you've done good work, and your entire town is behind you, and your entire town is saying, yes, this is the girl, this is the guy, this is the person that we want running for our assembly, our Congress, and our governorship. Really, that's where it is.
No, you're absolutely right. And I wanted to bring up a couple of things, and we've got a little bit of time, and even if we go a little long, these
whatever
are
you want.
points.
I'm here all night.
These are critical points, because there are issues in New Jersey, like every state, that are fundamental to that state. Now, and you referred to the Molten maneuver, and my first question to you is the Molten maneuver. Also, there's a couple things I want to bring up. The Molten maneuver, what you're actually doing in terms of qualifying people or qualifying individuals, or what is the process in creating well, you've got regions, sub-region affiliates, and then of course I absolutely have to talk about the media market. That's my own personal obsession. And New Jersey's got a very unique media situation.
We do.
So let's first start then with the affiliate development. As you pointed out, you've got regions, 3 primary regions. A number of states have gone in that direction. Pennsylvania has, for example, and it's working out very, very well. You've got a degree of an autonomy. You're empowering people to do what they need to do in terms of being boots on the ground, and it starts really at that regional level. So, what steps do you take, if you will, to create, if you will, an affiliate sub-region?
In the actual technical process, or how I just convince people to give their lives to the cause?
Well, I mean, watching this show, you convinced me to go back to New Jersey and volunteer. So
come on down. We'd love to have you, Pat. We could use your help.
Yeah.
Well, see, actually, Pat, this I'm glad you said something, because this Saturday at 2:30 over in Cream Ridge, check our Facebook and our website. You can find the information there. We're having one of our general meetings where if you are a member, you're going to be able to vote on issues of substance. If you're not a member, you can become a member and then vote on issues of substance. Either way, you get to enter a raffle to throw a pie in the face of your favorite state board member, and there's axe throwing. So come on out, enjoy it, Pat. You have the chance to throw pie at somebody. How is this a losing proposition? You should come.
And absolutely. And remember, we always end the show with shameless self-promotion. So let's remind people before the end of the show about that. But
all right, so affiliate organization. So
exactly.
the technical process is we leave it up to the region. Okay. We're very careful that autonomy is preserved, because we want to practice decentralization in our own organization as much as we possibly can. And by the way, we are a big supporter of ranked choice voting. That's something that our state board was very, very, very behind when it came to us. We need to have as many ranked choice options as possible. Our own national party did ranked choice for our newly elected chair. Well done. Talking about getting affiliates organized, generally speaking, a couple of people, 2 or 3, come together, talk to the regional board and say, hey, we want to become the official affiliate for our county or our township. That happens. They get voted by the regional membership. And if there's some disagreement or some weirdness in the rules, it gets kicked up to the state level, and we figure it out. It's as free form as we possibly can while still having some rules and controls in place. But the key thing in getting people to organize on the local level is to give them a reason to make it meaningful in their lives, because this is too hard to not have meaning attached to it. It's too much work to not have meaning and joy involved when you're working in it. If you find it meaningful to help your fellow persons and bring better justice and freedom into this world and create a peaceful and free society, that if you find meaning in that, do that with your friends and fellows and relatives. Do that. And don't you dare ask permission. Don't you dare wait for the person at the top to give you permission. Talk to the person at the top and say, I want to do this. And I'm pretty sure the person at the top is going to say, oh, thank God, here's the paperwork. Go to town. Let me know if you need help. Because if we're not empowering the people that are doing the hard work at the very local level where all the meaningful work for people happens, what the heck are we doing in the higher levels of leadership? It's our job to empower you when you decide to step up and be a local leader. Take ownership of your town. Take ownership of being the libertarian in your local area, in your friends group, in your volunteer organization. Become a volunteer firefighter. Join the Elks clubs, a family connection. So I got to say hi to the Elks. Do whatever you can to get involved in your community, make it better. And if part of that's being active politically and organizing for the Libertarian Party in your town or your county, do that. And do it well. And do it with as much energy and gusto and forgiveness for yourself so that you can make as many mistakes as possible early on so you make fewer later. And if you're not making any mistakes while you're doing something that's important, you're not actually doing anything. So go, give yourself permission, make mistakes, and take ownership of something that will truly make a difference in people's lives. Mm-hmm. Organize locally. Do it. Don't even think about it. It's the most meaningful thing you can do in politics.
And I'll just touch on this obliquely. There's been a lot of chaos in the national scene for the last couple of years for folks who felt they needed to be given a title in order to affect change, to affect growth, to take our statement of principles and our policies and our platform to the people. And to that, I say balderdash, be the office that you want to be. Simply just do it. But as someone who's
great example is Stacey Abrams. She did not win. She did not win a couple of times, but she has changed the face of politics in Georgia through her activism and getting people on the ballot and into the voter rolls and doing what she can to make sure people understand why it's important to vote. And it seems weird for a sitting LP chair to say kudos to a Democratic operative, but you know what? Kudos to Stacey Abrams for doing the hard work of getting people enrolled in the polls and out to the voting booth. We should be celebrating that when people are doing it, and we should be emulating it.
Right.
If we are not in our activism encouraging people to register as libertarian and go vote libertarian and help people that are running for libertarian, even if you're not quite the same libertarian, I don't like him on this specific issue, or her messaging on this was not quite right. You know what? They're still libertarians. They're still going to be a whole heck of a lot better than whoever Trenton put out there for you to decide and whatever machine has pre-vetted for you. I guarantee it.
You guys are a wonderful example because, you talk about ways to grow the party. Our advocacy of criminal justice reform in this nation has been pure and consistent since the inception of the party. Yet it's our in some areas of this nation, we've been able to be effective partners in pursuing that. In other areas of the nation, for whatever reason, we've stepped back, maybe afraid, maybe that wouldn't be prudent moment. We have to embrace coalitions.
At the end of the day, we're talking about people being in cages. When we're talking about justice reform, we're talking about people in cages. And we're talking about a population in prison that is the largest by population and per capita in the world history.
Right.
Stalinist Russia with the Gulag system does not hold a candle to our current incarceration state. And people can bemoan, private prisons are the problem, private prisons. No. Our own backwards laws and decisions that were going to incarcerate first and solve social as a means to solve social problems without actually doing anything to solve the social problem. Putting people in a cage for 20 years does not solve underlying social problems. It just removes someone from society that could have been productive, that could have had a meaningful life, that could have had time with their family and seen their children grow up. You've just taken them away. And the broad majority of people in jail are not in jail for things that you would be reasonable for: fraud, murder, assault. These are things that a prison time is kind of deserving of. But we see people in jail for, in three strike situations, people in jail for stealing a cookie, or people in jail for marijuana possession, holding a plant. Why can't I go to jail for oregano, huh? I'd like to have 3 hots and a cot. Let me walk around with oregano. Maybe that'll put me in prison. It's ridiculous. We've lost an entire generation of young men just because they happen to be carrying pot and they happen to have the wrong skin tone. And I'm sorry, but it's bullshit. It's bullshit how we treat people when it comes to enforcing laws, because all the police officers are incentivized to go to certain neighborhoods. They're incentivized to enforce laws a certain way. They're disincentivized to enforce laws on people that look like me. People like me in the suburbs, we get a pass. People that don't like me, that live in poor areas, or people that do look like me that live in poor areas, it's feudalism of another kind, and it's wrong. It needs to end.
We use the term economic racism. Listen, there are still states across the nation, sadly Rhode Island is one of them, that engages in an incredible level of abuse on solitary confinement. And the state of Rhode Island,
if you don't think that's torture, stay in a room for 5 days. See if you don't think it's torture at that point.
Right. Rhode Island is guilty of violating something called the Mandela Rules, which are issued by the United Nations, which are a reflection, if you will, the experiences, if you will, that Nelson Mandela had while in solitary confinement. And so I am part of a coalition that we go up to lawmakers and say, by the way, congratulations, Rhode Island, under the definition of the United Nations, is a torture state. Huh? What do you mean by that? We're a torture state. Yep. You can, and so many other states across the nation are still engaging. And I'm not talking about solitary confinement for people who may have murdered someone, even though that concept is thoroughly ridiculous. It's still torture. But I'm talking about the use of prison techniques in state prisons being used to modify, if you will, the behavior of people who are in there for crimes. We don't use the term, right? We don't use the term victimless crimes. We use the term bullshit, to coin your phrase, as ways of.
Sorry, we're in New Jersey. I apologize.
Dude, remember Kenilworth, exit 138. It speaks to one core issue in our party. Get up. After you're done with it, watching this show, shut off the computer. I realize in some parts of the nation it's late, but go online and spend a few minutes at your state website and pick out an issue.
Yep.
Use a dart if you have to. Pick out an issue and say, you know what? For the next year, I'm not going to engage in bleep posting. I'm not going to obsess over libertarian Game of Thrones. I'm simply going to pay attention to that one issue. And I'm going to volunteer, and I'm going to either lead the charge or join the charge to change whatever my little world is. In my case, it's Rhode Island. In your case, it's big old Jersey. All right. And I'm going to go out and I'm going to somehow figure out a way to change that world.
Rhode Island is just as important as New Jersey. Never talk down about Rhode Island. You guys had a civil war in the early days of the Republic, and that was beautiful. We're a free independent nation now. We're going to start our own civil war inside of the state of Rhode Island. Well done. Well done.
Well, just remember that the start and Massachusetts listeners, close your ears or make sure you're not drinking hot liquid or using heavy equipment. That the start of the American Revolution was actually the burning of Her Majesty's ship, the Gaspee, and it wasn't done by a bunch of drunks who threw some tea overboard because they were pissed. It was a well-organized, coordinated guerrilla attack, planned attack on a ship that was burned to its keel, if you will. Burn.
Oh, I do want to point out, speaking of burning things down and making things better, I do want to do a quick shout out to our newly elected and newly created position of Director of Political Affairs, Mike Rufo, who's working on the local level to take policies that we care about, bypassing Trenton entirely and going to the counties and the local townships to get ordinances passed where we can, because there are some towns, depending on that organized, where we can just do direct voter appeal to get things changed. That is a big effort that we're trying in New Jersey. We're trying, again, that local effect, make people's lives better where they live, prove that our ideas work, make sure that they understand we're not the scary boogeymen that people think that we are. We're earnestly trying to make your life better by allowing you to have freedom to choose and associate in ways that are not going to make the whole of society fall down. We want you to have options in your life, and we don't want them. Whatever I think is right should not be forced down your throat at the point of a gun. And if you don't agree with it, you go to jail. That's not how society should work. If your ideas are worth anything, they shouldn't be enforced with violence. They should be agreed to and acquiesced with, as opposed to, you should convince people, not make them violently afraid of you, of what you might do. That's what other people do, not us.
Let's talk about, for just a couple of minutes, I guess we'll have to rename it. Can it be the Moulton Maneuver in New Jersey? Or can we call it the Krause Maneuver? What do we want to call it?
No. Credit where it's due. It's not my idea. The idea came up with, it was originally the Florida model, and then became the Florida-Pennsylvania model, then became the Moulton Maneuver, and I'm loving whatever it is. If the Moulton Maneuver works here, guess what? It's the Moulton Maneuver. I'm fine by that. That's it's the goal of, we're measuring our success in New Jersey and how many members we have, and how many registered voters we have, on how many candidates we get elected, how many candidates we run. It's the basics, grinding, painful work of party building, of giving people a reason to be a member, of giving members things that are meaningful to do, of finding candidates that are worth the time of the voters, of communicating messages well. And once we have a candidate slate, letting them take over the lead while they're candidates, as opposed to getting in the way of what they're trying to do. We elected them. They are elected candidates of the LP. We agreed to follow behind them for this period of time. Let them run. Let them run and define what they're trying to do. If you're actively getting in the way of your candidates, what the heck are you doing? Do better. Support them. Listen to how they're talking. Talk like that. Do things like that.
And if for some reason you're dissatisfied with any of the national candidacies or the glamorous candidacies, there are candidacies legion that the addition of one person can make have a life-changing impact.
Or if you don't feel that if you don't feel the national candidates are worthy of your dollar, guess what? Locals are starving for money. $1,000 in a local campaign will be pretty much all the funding they need to run for mayor or city council.
Right.
$5,000, they're going to win that race, period, if they have any mind to it at all. If you can get money to local candidates in a meaningful way, and we have 500 some offices at the minimum to do, so it's very difficult to distribute funds that way. But if you are dissatisfied with whoever got the top pick for the president, guess what? Look down the ballot. See who you can support, who you can give money to, who you can volunteer for. Because I guarantee you there are good people down there that just need a little bit of help, and you'd be the most welcome addition to whatever they're trying to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Last subject before we bring tonight to a close, and you and I are both involved in a variety of media efforts, and I'd love to continue this conversation in those, as well as catching up with you again later in the year. But of course, my personal obsession.
Always welcome.
Yeah, media. Now,
go ahead.
New Jersey is somewhat unique in the sense that, in terms of televised media, and we all know, right? If it's not on television, it can't count. That's not true. But televised media, you're caught between the Philadelphia and New York vortex of stations, which are all obsessed about, their own stuff going on. But at the same time, there is still a very powerful newspaper culture in New Jersey, I should say, that that has survived despite a lot of trends. And I'm talking about everything from the Trenton Times to the Asbury Park Press the Atlantic City paper, the New York Star Ledger. I mean, just to name a few, who are all very powerful institutions in and of their own right, and hold a great deal of sway over things like, I always get a kick out of what is it, county freeholder, right?
We can't call them freeholders anymore. They've been changed.
Oh, wait, what are they now?
Well, apparently freeholder was a racist term. So It's
Okay.
been changed to county commissioner, I believe is what they're being called now. But same thing, different name. Great.
Right.
Wonderful.
Right.
We're glad we spent time doing that.
How much of a challenge, and what have you been able to do to break into this incredibly complex, incredibly nuanced, and incredibly expensive set of media markets that surround and invade New Jersey?
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out to Greg Millet of the Millet for Governor. There it is right there. Go ahead and click on it. Give him some money. He'd appreciate it. As he's doing the next leg of his second 21 county tour. He's been fantastic. He and Eve have been fantastic on getting as many media opportunities as they possibly can. They're doing as many interviews as they can. They've been on local radio. They've been able to get into the newspapers. They've been able to break through that problem of getting coverage by being newsworthy. All right. So they were able to be newsworthy by finding, for lack of a better word, a gimmick of going to every county. That's newsworthy. A third-party candidate that's doing 21 county tour 3 times over the course of the candidacy. He's doing this 3 times. This is just the second. He's already completed it once. That's something that the local media can understand and get behind and write news articles on. Be newsworthy. John Marion, who ran for Congress up north last year, he was very good with this. He is able to find ways to be newsworthy. And hi, John, how you doing? He's able to be newsworthy and develop personal contacts by just calling people up, talking to them on the phone, being able to, and Dan Valentine down in Ocean County, wonderful job. You and Rob are going to do fantastic work down there, Dan. Finding ways to be newsworthy and effectively do the reporter's job for them by being newsworthy. I'm doing this thing at this time with these people, and we're going to be doing this crazy thing in this way. And they can write about that. They can do a piece, and they can get used to talking to you and be involved. And anytime your candidacy is mentioned, it actually encourage other news sources to cover you. And at this point, Greg is being considered the third of the three gubernatorial candidates. They're talking about the 3 gubernatorial candidates. And I hate that word, but gubernatorial, it's a fun thing. He didn't get there just because, they decided to cover him. He got there by constantly putting press releases out and following that up with physical activity that was newsworthy by being something to be covered, as opposed to just lamenting, we never get any coverage. Well, guess what? Go out and organize a trash pickup. If your thing is environmental issues, go organize a trash pickup, or go hold a speech, get all your closest friends, relatives, and supporters and go hold a rally at the local Superfund site and talk about how this hasn't been cleaned up because of how badly the money's been mismanaged. Thanks, Christy, by the way, for taking all that federal money and not using what was supposed to be used for. Well done. Do things that are newsworthy, and you will get news coverage. And at the end of the day, the media, while we want to bemoan it and vilify it, it's lazy. And that's not to disparage them. They have a lot to do, and copy is difficult to write. If you can give them things to write that are easy to write about, the local candidate does aids in puppy adoption process. Whatever your work is, do it, and do it in a loud, personal, physical way, and make sure the media knows that you're doing it, and the coverage will come. But it takes time, and it takes effort, and it takes work.
I'm going to be speaking at the Perspectives on Freedom in scenic Jersey Shore, Pennsylvania on September 18th and 19th. I encourage everyone to go if possible. I'm going to be holding it's going to be an informal session, but it's going to be, it's essentially titled Earn Media, How to Earn It.
Yep.
And earned media is very, very important for libertarians for two reasons. Number one, it's media. Number two, it's free. And to your point, as someone now who recently made the jump full time into the media,
Very jealous of what you're able to do these days, by the way, Pat. You're telling me some of your stories.
It is, as my kids would say, it's a hell of a good time. The being able to pigeonhole the Senate Armed Services Chairman and ask him about, assassins for hire built, trained by Americans. That's special.
Yeah.
And doing it on my own camera. I'm not trolling him. I'm asking him a question.
Honest question.
Putting another
answer, please.
Putting another senator on the spot who was going to support Barbara Lee's legislation to end the authorization for the use of military force that was developed in 2002 as a result of 9/11. It's weird when you're in the media, they got to answer the questions. It's magic. But you're absolutely right. One of the things we're going to talk about is, finally getting libertarians to just destroy the notion that somehow we're entitled to media coverage.
Nope, we are not. You
have to earn it. There has to be a reason why you're granted coverage. You have to be interesting. You have to have a story. You have to be on point. You have to be focused. You have to have a reason for these people to invest their time in you. Is that fair?
Nope.
Maybe not. But you know what? It's reality.
It is what it is. And you have to swim in the waters that you're born in. You can try to change the waters over time, but you got to swim in the waters you're in.
Right.
I do want to take just a moment to point out a couple of things that are coming up. One, picnic. July 24th, come on out to Jersey, even if you're not a Jerseyan. Come on out, enjoy yourself, have a drink, eat some tomatoes, throw an axe, throw a pie. Not at the same time, those last two. Enjoy yourself. But two, we are very honored to be hosting the LNC Region 8 training in October 9th and 10th. If you're interested and you want to attend, go to lp.org, find the regional training, appropriate links, sign up, come on out. It's going to be a grand old time. It's going to be in the greater Newark area. We can show off scenic northern New Jersey, and we'll have a grand old time. We'll be working the whole darn time, and we'll have plenty of events for you to give us money, but it will be a fantastic time. And it's one of the largest investments in the human resources of the party that the National Party has done. And thank you very much to LNC, Kara Schultz especially, for getting this training together and working with us to make it happen.
There is a bar in Newark, and I'm hoping it's still there, called McGovern's.
I believe it is. I believe it is.
And it's a fine place. And in my youth, I would have the odd drink there, particularly during the summers when I took extra courses at Rutgers University in New York. and I remember it was also the home of Irish Northern Aid for Northern New Jersey, those were interesting times. And I hope to, I'm going to try to get down there for that because, again, just to cover it, just to give some amplification to the incredible work the professional staff continues to do, despite changing times, despite whatever that crisis du jour is. One thing is absolutely true: that crew still works right through it.
And Pat, knowing that you're going to be in position during the training event, it's so exciting. I'm going to try to keep my clothes on for that media event. No guarantees, but I'm going to try to keep it on just for you. Please, I'll try to keep them on.
Please, you be you. All right. Give us some shameless self-promotion. You talked about the event, but let's redirect people one more time to your social media, how they can join, and just one more time on that event.
All right, the be-all, end-all for getting involved with the New Jersey Libertarian Party is our website that's made by our wonderful webmaster, Jay Edgar. It is njlp.org. NJLP.org, that's the touchstone for everything. Everything else comes out of that. Our Facebook, our Twitter, everything else. By the way, our social media is dealt with by Mike Guadagnino. I got it right that time. And with our VP of public relations. Our entire board is fantastic. All of our representatives are fantastic on the board. I love them so much. But we have doing the needful thing. Reach out to your region. Reach out to your county. If you don't have a region or a county, start one. get involved. We have our picnic coming up on the 24th, which is a general meeting. So you can actually be the most powerful libertarian in the state of New Jersey as you possibly can be, become a member that day, and you still have the ability to vote. We have the training coming up in October. We have fantastic candidates that are running for governor, Greg Mealy and Evelyn Brownstein for governor and lieutenant governor, respectively. We have fantastic candidates down ballot. We got, let me just grab that real quick before I before I say people's names wrong. All right, we got Greg Mealy for governor, Eve Brownstein for lieutenant governor, Jacob Selwood running with Michael Gallo in Assembly District 1, David Awad running for Assembly District 18, Nick Magner for District 4. We got James Toussaint that you've seen popping in on the screen there for Senate District 39, Rob Canfield for Ocean County Commissioner, and Dan Valentine, who's running with him for Ocean County Commissioner. These people are doing the work. These people are doing the work that needs to be done. Help them out. Do what you can. Send them an email. They'd be glad to take any aid that you can offer, even if it's showing up for a day or being on a phone call with them. My job is easy because all I have to do is help these people. And if I can make them powerful, that's the job. If I can make the local level affiliates powerful, that's the job. And as long as I can do that, I will gladly consider my time in office to be well spent.
Wonderful. I know we're going to be working to have Mr. Mealy on the candidate show. We're going to be coming up with a schedule for that this week. We've got a bunch of people lined up. People are making their declarations now. We are now really at the beginning of the 2022 election midterms.
We really are. We really are. Think ahead, people. Think 2 years ahead. Right.
And think going to war now. Let's go to war to end wars. Let's go to war to end and if you will, the violence of our immigration laws. Let's go to war now to end the violence of our quote unquote criminal justice system. Let's go to war now to end the violence of our taxation system. Let's go to war now to end the violence, if you will, educational violence.
Here's a new brilliant concept that Greg was talking to me the other day, and a few other candidates, John Mariano as well, and a couple of others. Start raising money now. You may not have the nomination. You may not get the nomination, but start raising money now. Establish the bank accounts. Get the background work done. Raise the money. Be the obvious candidate because you've already done the work and you got the team in place, so that when you go to the convention, you can be the person that's already running for office and has been in the news.
Right.
Don't wait. Why wait and start after you're nominated? Start now. Start now.
That air of inevitability is so important when you're talking about the big mo in politics.
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, listen, this has been a hell of a good time as I keep getting back to that, but Dan, it's been wonderful.
It's been a pleasure and an honor, Pat. Thank you so much.
And nothing but Jersey love, for, so many moments in my life, the Capitol Theater in Passaic, the Meadowlands, the real Meadowlands. Mm-hmm. I've grown up there. Everything from my music to politics were formed up there. The first political question I ever asked, the first time I ever put a politician on the spot, was when I was in 10th grade. Remember Brendan Byrne? Right. He's at a campaign event at the headquarters of Shearing Plow, and I believe I was, I don't know, 7th or 8th. I don't know what I was. And they asked to raise questions, and I raised my hand. And everybody stared back at me in my little Catholic school togs. And I asked them a question. I said, aren't you worried about, are you ready for this one? Aren't you worried about, with the creation of legal gambling, the incursion of, if you will, the mafia into those activities? And in a moment I'll never forget, he goes, no, we've got that completely under control.
Brilliant. Yeah, totally under control. There's no mob control in that at all. None. There you go, buddy. It's not used for laundering ever. I'm shocked to find gambling in this casino.
You've been listening to the Libertarian Affiliate Spotlight, a production of the Libertarian Party Affiliate Support Committee. Of course, Valerie Sarwak as chair. And of course, our Libertarian National Committee. Congratulations, if you will, from part of the crew here at LPTV to Whitney Bilyeu of her election as chair just this past week. As always, John Gamso joined us on the big board. He's the guy that brings up the fun graphics, the local newspapers, the websites, the campaign sites on the fly while we're doing this. I've had the unique honor to be your host on this show, Pat Ford. Big thanks to folks again from New Jersey, Dan Krause. We'll be back on now. Again, it's time to get serious. We'll be back on Friday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, with our next candidate. And by the way, there is every day now, it's up there on the Libertarian Party website. Every day now, there is programming on LPTV. Folks, the point of all this is to bring our party together. Look at great affiliates like Pennsylvania, New Jersey, all the folks that we've had on, Wisconsin. We're about halfway through the states at this point. Enjoy their successes, revel in their challenges, understand their best practices, and let's come together as a party. Let's move beyond, if you will, the issues of the past few weeks, past few months, and let's look to what's important. Bring liberty to our friends, our family, our nation in our lifetime. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you Friday night.